Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lord bless you. I'll just say a word in terms of readers. I'm not used to wobbling around with the treatments. It can get a little rough. But I am stronger, so I feel better. Go ahead.
Brother Dugas, we are grateful to have you here this morning, and we're thankful that you would give us the opportunity to hear from your story, hear from your life, and be a part of the interview today. We do want to pause and say welcome to our Urshan Gateway Alumni Association. They are watching live right now on Facebook. Our representative, Brother Michael Lloyd, is here, and he is streaming that live. So why don't we give them a welcome as well online. Thank you for being here tonight. And so, Brother Dugas has a life that has been given to this institution. This, as I said just a moment ago, is a hero to who we are as an institution. And so, we're going to ask him a series of questions and hear some of his memories about our school and who we are. And we're also going to ask him some questions about who he hopes we become in different areas. So, Brother Dugas, what is your original connection to Gateway College? So how did you come to this institution? Where did it all begin?
Well, I was living in California, going to another Bible school, and so I transferred here from Stockton in '69, fall of '69, second year the school was in existence. So my connection was coming to be a part of the student body from '69 on. And I've been a part of the school ever since, of course.
That's incredible. So you said Stockton, which I'm assuming is CLC. And so from that, I've been made aware that there's a family connection of some regard. So how has the family connection of Christian education impacted your family? I know the Dugases are spread throughout different Bible colleges. Can you give us a little bit of information on that and how it led to here?
Well, my father was raised in an apostolic home, but he never really turned his heart to God. He served in World War II. God spared his life. Came home several years. He kind of rejected truth. And one Sunday morning, my grandmother preached a message. He was coming to pick us, our children. I have two brothers, a brother and sister. He was coming to pick us up from Sunday school, and they didn't dismiss. So he slipped in the back door, and that morning, my grandmother preached, and he came to the altar and repented, and has been in the church ever since. Of course, he's passed on. But he felt a call to ministry, and so he, in 1957, went to Stockton and was a student there, and also later went back to be a staff member at the school for several years. So that was my connection there in Stockton, and because he was making a change, I felt like it would be a good opportunity for me to make a change, and coming to Gateway College of Evangelism, and it did make a big difference in my life. It was the best move I ever made. Of course, I found my wife here, so that maybe was why.
It's a great reason. It's a great reason. It's a great reason to go to Bible college, right?
That's right. That's right.
I'm living proof of that. Amen. Anyways, now you were a student at Gateway, and then you ended up becoming the president. So what's kind of like your reflection now, looking back and say, you know, I came from being a student to being the president. How's your perception on that, personally?
Well, I never dreamed that would happen. They didn't know me well when they asked me to serve, I think. What happened was I served with Brother Parkey in Kansas City in 70, 71, 72, I guess about 73. I left and went to the youth division. But it was during that time I was involved in the district work, and of course when you're involved in district work, Gateway was part of it. So we've been involved in work days, involved in different projects around the school, and then of course my moving here to St. Louis, and then eventually pastoring the church. I've been at the sanctuary for 33 years in March. During that years, I was the closest pastor. So they called me more frequently than anybody else. So there was a period of time Brother Chambers was the president of the school, and he was district superintendent, so he could give time to the school at that time. And of course, the student body, they went down to just a handful of students, and things didn't look good for the school. And so Brother Chambers was leaving that position, and he wanted the president. So I was on a committee, a search committee for the president of Gateway. And it was a long day, in fact, it was several days, many calls, much work. And so in the midst of the search, they decided, how can we pay a president? We don't have any money. Of course, you got lots of money now, but in that day, when we said nothing, it was nothing. So they decided they would maybe search for somebody close. And so we did, and we had names, and we voted, and we voted, and we voted. It was tied, and no decision could be made. So I was in the meeting, and my son was in high school at the time, and I don't know, there was some kind of problem. I can't imagine that with Matthew, but so I had to go answer a telephone call for the school, and while I was gone, I came back in the room and said, well, we have voted you in as president of Gateway College. And of course, my dad had been involved in Bible school work for many years, and I was a Bible school kid, lived on campus. The 3 places we lived on campus was condemned houses that they fixed up and let us live in. It was one of those kind of things. All I knew was Bible school food. It wasn't near as good as Chef. Wasn't even close. And so I was raised on all that. And I just knew the work involved, and I just said, there's just no way I could do this. And so I really turned it down. And so then about 3 months later, 2 months later, we had a district conference, and someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, the district board wants to see you. That's not comfortable. So I went to the district board, and there was a school board there and the district board. Looked like half the district was there. And they all decided that I should be the president. Well, we talked for about an hour. And I just didn't feel like it was qualified. And so finally I said, I'll give it a shot. That's all I can say, and I'll do my best. My wife wasn't there. Can you imagine me calling home and saying, hey babe, we got a new job? So anyway, that's kind of how that evolved. And then it began to unfold. I might say that the first day I walked on campus after they'd asked me to be president, they just made their last payroll, had no money for the summer. The music director quit. Sister Aaron's here today. She's not. There she is. She was my savior. She became the choir director for that next week and took the choir out. Remember that? No drummer, no, I don't know, everybody's quit. So, everybody but Sister Ann, she stuck with me. And they ended up having a great year, and we made great payroll.
Well, on that regard, we posed this question to several alumni and different members of the community, and many of them accredit you for saving this institution. In their mind, it was almost over, and you came in and saved it. And so from that perspective, as being the longest tenured president that we've had, what were the greatest challenges of being the president of this institution during that time and that season in which God placed you here?
Well, we had to rebuild the staff. So that was a job because several were leaving. And I know we had some rough spots around here, this campus, but thank God for the progress that's been made. It's been marvelous. Amen. But if you would have seen this campus then, it would have blown your mind. There was a lot of work that had to be done, and we just didn't have the money. So I spent my first summer basically trying to get office in order, get restructured, start working on trying to rehab dorms. This building was, I don't think they were using this building at the time, but it was just trying to get all the pieces together, and there were 1 million pieces. So I don't know if I can just say that there's just one thing. There was just many things that had to be done. And thankfully, the people that joined me and worked with me, they worked very, very hard. The second year, I asked Brother Johnson to come, Brother Jay. I couldn't have done it without him. He and I were we spent our time together trying to plan, trying to get it all together, and so together we worked. Then Sister Scott was here at the time. Sister Ann Harris, I think, joined the staff then. We had several that were people that just really jumped in and helped me try to put the pieces together. It didn't happen overnight. It was a long haul to do it. And then people sacrificed. I mean, our dean of students, we paid them $200 a week. I was getting people to come in for little or nothing because I needed all the money. No, that's one of the reasons I took Gateway. The pay was great. If you don't like to get paid for anything, it's great.
Well, with that in mind, that whole transitional period from Gateway, it was only a matter of a few years after you took acquisition of Gateway as the president that you began the process of founding UGST. So it's amazing that we're talking about this volatile time in the school. You come in and you're trying to readjust everything, but it also shows a great leap of faith on your behalf to begin that process. So could you tell us a little bit about the founding of UGST and how you played into that?
Well, I might mention that when I took over, we had one teacher that had a master's degree, several that had BAs, but mainly from our Bible colleges. So I don't know exactly what year it was, but we did make a decision that all of our future faculty members would be obtaining, either have a master's degree or would be willing to go to school to get a master's degree. And so we worked on developing a qualified staff. And in the midst of all that, we had several that just started talking about accreditation, and that's, of course, that was a dream from the very beginning Brother Parkey had of this being an accredited school. That was his dream and his desire, and of course he was a great supporter of us being here. So in the process, we got to talking about accreditation, and of course immediately people said there's no way we can be accredited. And for me, that's not good language when you say no way. Don't tell me no until you can tell me why it's no. Why? What does it mean to say no? Because they'd say, well, we're apostolic and they won't accredit after. Well, they were going to the Trinitarians. No, they're not going to accredit us. So anyway, Brother Johnson, Brother Littles had joined staff. We were in touch with Brother Norris, of course, Brother Johnson. So we kind of put our heads together and said, you know, we're tired of everybody telling us it can't be done. Let's find out if it can be done. In fact, that little committee I had, there were some doubters too. And so I said, you know, the way to solve this is for us to just get in our vehicle and we'll go to Pittsburgh and let's go meet the man that's at the top. So Brother Norris at the time was in Philadelphia, so he flew to Pittsburgh. Brother Jay, Brother Lillis, and myself, we got the van and we made our trip to Pittsburgh, met gonna have to tell me the doctor, Brother Norris, I don't remember the name of the man. Yes. We just had a very, very productive meeting, and he said, there's no reason why you cannot be accredited. Well, that lit our fire, you know. So now we're talking about the top guy saying it's possible. And then all of us down here saying it's not possible. It didn't make sense to me. Now, I wasn't the brains behind it. Brother Norris, Brother Littles, Brother Jay, I was the pusher. I was the one that says we can do it. In fact, they were some of the ones that said it couldn't be done, and I said it could be done. And so that's really how that started. So we made an approach to the Christian Board of Education. We had a few connections to get into Brother Urshan's office, and we got the ball rolling. We made a presentation to this is pretty nutshell here. We made a presentation to the general board, and the doors started opening. And I think it took a 10-year process, and we have an accredited graduate school. And so my feeling was the same for Urshan College. I mean, why in the world would they want to credit an upper, graduate school and not an undergrad? So we're finding that the doors have opened up, and I'm thrilled with the work that's been done to achieve this goal. It's not easy. We started the work doing it, but we near started compared to what's happened in the last few years. And it's just good, capable people that work together to get this accomplished. And so there's just not one person that's involved, it's several. I know some say, well, you were clever in naming it Urshan College because Brother Urshan was the general superintendent. But Brother Jay really came up with the idea because of our heritage. I'm personally connected. My grandfather was 80 Urshan. He married my grandmother, and so I was very much connected to the Urshan family through the years. And so I felt like it was a good idea. And so those are some of the things that happened. So it's just everybody putting in and heads together, and we made progress.
So sitting where you're at right now on this platform, realizing the vision that Brother Parkey had, and seeing it come into fruition through UGST, and now looking at the possibility here in a couple of weeks, we have a site visit with our accreditation site team here for the undergraduate school, looking at where it's come from. Where do you see it going to as that visionary? Because you saw this school in existence when the doors were almost closed. You were that visionary that believed that it could happen when everybody else was saying no. So from this platform, where you're at, where do you see it as a leader of this institution?
Well, I believe that the potential's unbelievable. It won't only affect this institution, but I think it can affect all of our Bible colleges being involved. And it's going to lift us to a higher level. We have too many young people going to secular college and not serving God. Why not have apostolic, God-fearing teachers teach our students? Christian schools. I'm in favor of that. In fact, sometimes some of these people almost preach that you need to go shoot a school teacher because they're so heathenistic. Don't do that. But it's good advice. But when these kids then graduate from because they go to homeschool because they don't want to be affected by the evil elementary schools, they graduate from their homeschooling and they go jump right into these institutions where they teach against God and everything else. Doesn't make sense to me. We need an apostolic institute for our children. My plans is I have a 12-year-old, believe it or not. As you know, I lost my wife 10 years ago. I got remarried. My wife now, Deanna, had a son who's 12 years old. We're making plans for him to come to Urson College. That's where he needs to be. And I think that's what we need to teach our children instead of saying, make sure you get out here and get some education from some institution where you won't even believe in God. I mean, why should we spend 4 years trying to defend that there's a God? We already know there's a God. Let's defend the message and let's, go forward. And so I think that this is going to be a tremendous opportunity for us to make great strides among our young people in our future. I really believe that.
Very good. 2 years ago, beginning in our graduation ceremonies, we instituted a new award that we are giving away in your honor. It is the Timothy A. Dugas Servant Leadership Award. The committee that decided to name it that based it upon your life. That is how people view you. Could you tell us a little bit about your personal belief towards servant leadership and why it matters in the kingdom of God and the mission that our students follow when they leave this institution?
Well, my desire has always been to be a shepherd. I wanted to live a life that people wanted to follow. I didn't want to be a rancher. I mean, they have all these descriptions of church growth. You're a rancher, and you're, drive and all that. I'm not that kind of person. I try to lead by example. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can go out and take up a project, and people will watch you do it. And so there's others who'll catch the vision and they'll jump in. But I'm driven by progress that I can see being made. I'm not a writer. I wish I were. I'd recommend that you work hard on your writing, become a writer, work on those skills. Not against you going to further education. I think it's important for you to further your education, go to graduate school, hone your skills. But my skills wasn't probably in that area. I was more of dig a ditch, all this ceiling up here, we built scaffolding, do that in. I didn't do it all myself, but I was up involved in it. They kidded around. My uniform was bib overalls. In fact, last year I did a few projects around here. And I'm just motivated by that. And so I just feel like you have to lead. So in pastoring, if we're going to have prayer meeting, I'm going to be at the prayer meeting. If I want people early to church, I'm going to be early. If, I can tell you what I don't like. I don't like guys that think they have to have a special parking place and have to sit on the front row. I don't even put my picture on material. I just don't do it. Not saying it's wrong. You can do that. If you want a private parking place, have it. But if you're the pastor, you ought to be there before anybody else is anyway. You should have the best parking place. go rip down signs this weekend. Keep those signs up. Sometimes there's a limit parking. The pastor has to do that. I'm just saying. I think there's just some things that aren't necessary. If you have to call yourself a pastor, you're not a pastor. If you had to tell somebody I'm a reverend, you're not a reverend, probably. Well, that's not necessary. Your life ought to demonstrate that. And so I think it's how you lead. It has to be a demonstration of that. Do I do everything right? No, I don't. Made a few mistakes, but God's helped us along the way.
When I posed that question to some of the alumni, one of them made a comment that when they first started working here, actually it was a former staff member as well, they said that whenever they would come through the summer, they would be expected to be here to help clean and to help fix the dorms and to work on the classrooms, but every time they did it, you were always with them. And that reflection also can be seen in our own student body, as you made reference to the improvements that have happened just on this campus over the last 2 years that you were involved in. Just to give you an example, how many of you enjoy the underground, the Student Life Center downstairs? Brother Dugas is the one that constructed that with the help of a couple of other men. He's the one that built the wood platform that went out and took care of that. Guys, how many of you enjoy your newer tiled showers? Okay. Brother Dugas was involved in that project as well. And then the handicap accessibility ramps. We now have a student here that can come to classes and live on our campus because of this man's labor of love to this campus. And so not only is it something that the staff and the faculty are aware of, or the alumni, but this is something that each and every one of you that's on this campus are directly affected by right now, just recently. So with that being said, after we talked about your dedication to this school, your love for what it stands for, and your service to the community, if you could give one piece of advice to future ministers and students that are in this auditorium, as well as those that are watching online, some of your alumni and the former students that attended under your tenure, what would be the one word of advice that you would want to leave them with?
Well, I think just be real. Don't hone a preacher's voice. Don't try to preach like somebody else. Just be yourself and allow God to use you where you are. Your success will be based on who you are and what you can become through your giving. And I might just say that one of the things that we've always tried to do is be giving. I've tried to teach our church to be a giving church. We aren't the biggest or the richest, but we always, church always responds very well in giving, because I said, we got to give. We can't be wrapped up in ourselves. A man that's wrapped up in himself is the smallest package in the world. So don't try to be something you're not. Now, do you need to develop? Yes. Can you become a different person? Yes, you can. Can you become a better person? I believe you can. But in the midst of all that, work on the hypocrisy. Folks, all of us have a little hypocrisy in us. So we got to get that under control. We got to get the flesh under control and let God use us. And then try to get others involved with you. Sometimes it's just, even young people, I try to get young people involved. I know back when we were doing all these different projects, I remember one summer, Brother Molina was here one summer. He probably regrets that summer. I mean, we tore out. I mean, there's only about 2 of us. I don't know who else helped us, brother.
Larry Stuckey, Mitchell Bland.
Okay. We was opening up that building right across, I guess that's considered the library building. And I just, we just worked together. And so I tried to mentor people, try to help them, But most of all, be real and allow God to use you where you are and not try to be something that you're not. God's going to help you in your weaknesses. God can't help you when you don't find yourself willing to become the person He wants you to become. Amen.
Well, Brother Dugas, we are so thankful that you were able to come and be with us today. Thank you for the transparency and the willingness to invest in this institution. And I think it would be appropriate if we would go ahead and give him a round of applause for coming. Thank you so much for being here. At this time, we are going to ask the Student Senate from UC, as well as the e-board from UGST, and a few of our staff and our faculty members, those that are here. We're going to ask you to come up front at this time, and we're not going to overwhelm him with the entire student body. But we do want the representatives of the student body, as well as some of our staff and faculty members, to come up and to gather around Brother Dugas. And we are going to pray for him in this season of his life with the health issues that he is dealing with. And we're going to pray over him and ask that the hand of God would move in his life and touch him, give him strength. And we're going to do this collectively as a student body. He is given of his entire life. He's given of his mind, his heart, his soul, his body to this community. And so today, this community is going to lift him up in the moment when he is feeling the weakest in his life. And so can we do that today? Can I actually get one of these chairs? We're going to have you, Brother Dugas, we'll have you sit down in the chair. That way you don't have to stand too long. And so let's all gather around him and collectively pray as a student body for our former president. How many of you are thankful for the man of God that he is allowed to be a part of this institution? Thankful for his life, we're thankful for his ministry, and we have a
little bit of extra time today for the end of chapel. And I know that often we are tempted to rush out of the chapel and go back to our life and go back to our regular routine. We still have a good 25 minutes left in this chapel. And what I would like for this entire community to do today is to make its way up here and either hug or shake his hand and thank him for the life and legacy that he has given to this institution. If you want to take a picture with him, don't hesitate, take a picture. But I want every single one of you to have an opportunity to come up here. If you want to form lines, that's fine, but let's take time and let's honor Bishop Dugas today.